All right, good morning and welcome to Just Daf It. Daf Yevamos, Daf Nun Gimel 53. We have a fascinating share for you today. We'll be talking more about the fun stuff. Chalas v'asa maimer, nasan get v'asa maimer, bal v'asa maimer. All these cases that we have no idea what we're talking about, practically what we're talking about over here. One day, hopefully, they'll reenact Ibum. These laws will become practical again. But until then, you have me to tell you about it. Let's get into the daf. People are complaining I talk too much at the beginning of the daf. I go too fast at the end. So let's start it off today. A little early, not too much introduction. Had a wonderful birthday last night. Went to a restaurant, some family, celebrate my 40th birthday. I got them to shut off the lights in the entire restaurant and bring me cake. I did spend roughly $900 on 6 people, so I don't think that's a record. I think it's standard. You go to a fancy restaurant, you got a bottle of wine, 600 shekel bottle of wine. That was after I bought the 1,200 shekel. 1,200 shekels is approximately $400. I bought the $400 bottle of wine to my table. My wife thought of the other of it. She couldn't stand that I would pay 1,200 shekels for a bottle of wine. When I don't even drink wine, I don't even like wine. Until yesterday, I didn't like wine at all. I buy these cheap wines in the store. They don't taste very good, especially the dry ones. It's like it tastes terrible. That's not good. It tastes heavy. It's heavy. That's how I would describe wines. Heavy. If they're not aged a lot, they're heavy wines. They're dry. They don't taste good. But I was going out for my 40th birthday, so bought a bottle of wine. My wife convinced me to go for the 600 bottle of wine. Actually, she didn't convince me. I forced her to let me have at least a 600 shekel bottle of wine. I got the 600 shekel bottle of wine. You know what? I have to say, there is something to wine, aged wine. It was very light. That's what I have to say. It was dry. I got Merlot. I didn't want Cabernet Sauvignon. Merlot's a little sweeter, and it actually was very light. It doesn't have a heavy taste where the taste remains in your mouth. You drink it, you taste it all lightly, and then it goes away. It's actually smooth and light like that. So I guess that's what expensive wines are. Expensive wines. That's why they age them for a long time. So there is something to it. I don't know. I don't know when the next bottle of wine I'm going to drink. But anyway, if you're wondering what I wanted, we could talk about it at a different time. All right, let's get into the Gemara. The Gemara says, we're talking about yesterday, Machlokas in Rebbe and the Rabbanan, of whether if you do Chalitza to the Yevamos and then you want to do Kiddushin after, Maimer is a form of Kiddushin. You want to do Kiddushin afterwards, is it effective? It's not effective. Rebbe says it's not really effective. Rabbanan say it is effective. So what are they talking about? So Rava, we gave one explanation about yesterday. Rava says 4 lines from the bottom, then Beis and Beis. Rava Amar, everyone agrees if he says I'm doing a maimer of Yibam, even after the Chalitza, technically it would work. The Hakab Mayaskina, what are we talking about? His Kashi Bezikas Yibam. He doesn't say I'm Kashi with a maimer of the Yibam. The Zika is basically the connection that is automatically brought into effect when the woman falls to Yibam. So there's a Zika, there's a connection, whether it's a complete connection or a partial connection or an ability to do Yibam, that's a different discussion. But there is a Zika, there is a connection. Rebbe holds Yesh Zika. So Rebbe would hold in this way of understanding at top of Nun Gimel and Aleph Yesh Zika. Zika effectuates a full Kinyan Yibam. Once he does Chalitza, he removes the whole thing. It's a big Zika, big connection. He removes it. So therefore, he tries afterwards to Mekadosh her with the Zika Yibam, it's gone. But it's already Ein Zika. What do you mean Ein Zika? There is Zika. There is a connection. They mean Ein Zika, meaning it doesn't have fulfillment. It wasn't fulfilled yet. It's a latent. It's potential. All it is potential. So therefore, there's no Zika actively, only passively, only only under the surface, so therefore when you do chalitza, it doesn't remove that zika, and therefore you can mekadesh her. It's still latent, and you can mekadesh her after the chalitza with the latent zikas yibum. Right, Rabbanan Safri in zikra mikara ilo amarlach his kashi b'zikas yibum yula mahani hashnami mahani. Originally, if before he did chalitza, he would mekadesh or do mimer with the zika, it would work. It would take the latency of the zika and make it proactive. And now, and even after the chalitza, it should still be in place. You could do that. That's Rava's shita. The Gemara says, "Masharsha of Sharvi Amar b'chalitza kshera ida Amar like skashli b'zikas yibum klamei lapligi lo mahani." He says, if it was a regular chalitza we're talking about, did 100% kosher chalitza, everyone would agree mekadesh or zikas yibum, it wouldn't work because even if it's latent. Chalitza removes even that, so there's no ability to revive that zika, which makes sense. The more sense to me. Here we're talking about where he didn't do a chalitza kshir, he did a chalitza psula. For example, he gave her a get first, right, and then he did a chalitza. He did mimer first, and he does a chalitza. The chalitza doesn't really remove the zika completely. Marsar chalitza psula poteres, right? Rebbe holds chalitza psula, even though it's not a full chalitza, it patters the zika or patters everything like gamre. Therefore, you try to mekadesh her with zikas yivmin. It doesn't work. Mar Sarva chalitza psula ain't poteres. The Rabbanan hold chalitza psula doesn't patter like gamre. There's still a little bit of zika left. So therefore, when you mekadesh her with zikas yivmin, it works. Ravashi Amar, a fourth explanation: the kulam chalitza psula ain't poteres. Everyone agreed that chalitza psula wouldn't patter. You could. Here we're talking about a t'nai. You make a t'nai b'chalitza. Meaning, what are we talking about? He says when he does the chalitza to the woman, he says, "I'm gonna do chalitza to you on the condition you give me $1,000. Yeah, give me $1,000 for the chalitza to be effective." So, one opinion, the Rabbanan hold yesh t'nai b'chalitza. He made it t'nai b'chalitza, so therefore the chalitza, the effectiveness of the chalitza is dependent on whether she gives him the money or not. So therefore the chalitza wasn't effectuated until she gives the money. And therefore, if he goes ahead and does his chalitza, and then he does a mimer before she gives him the money, so therefore it wasn't a chalitza done, because the t'nai is effective. It hasn't happened yet. So therefore, of course, you mekadesh her with mimer. Mar Savar ain't t'nai b'chalitza. The Rebbe would hold there's no t'nai b'chalitza, meaning chalitza, you can't make t'naim, right? It's ineffective to make a t'nai. Like the Gemara says in Kedushin, and in Ksuvos, in Daf Ayin Dalet, Tosfos brings 74 in Ksuvos, that one of the reasons you can't make a t'nai b'chalitza, this is how we paskin. We paskin, you can't make a t'nai b'chalitza, you can't make a shliach do chalitza. I can't appoint someone to do chalitza for me, right? I say, you, my friend, you go to the Beis Din and the Yevamos will take off your shoe. It doesn't work. So therefore, you're not the bailam of it, you're not in control over here. It's your brother's wife, it's not your wife yet. So therefore, you don't have the ability to do that. You don't have the ability to stipulate a t'nai. So your t'nai, when you give me $1,000, is ineffective. So the chalitza happens. Anyway, the chalitza happens, so it's an effective chalitza, and therefore you can't be mekadesh her anymore. According to the Rabbanan, you could. Well, Gemara says Ravina, there's a fifth explanation. Everyone agrees there is t'nai b'chalitza. This is hard to understand because Tosfos points out we don't pass like that. We hold ain't t'nai b'chalitza, like I just explained to you before. Right, chalitza mutas. The Gemara says in Ksuvos Ayin Dal doesn't work. He tricks her. You're chalitza. I'm doing a chalitza tonight. I'll give you $100. Right? Doesn't work. So here the Gemara seems to be maskana that everyone agrees yesh t'nai b'chalitza. Tonight kafal komivligi. Here we're talking about did he do the proper type of t'nai? One of the machlokes when you make a t'nai, a stipulation, any deal you make, you have to do it in certain ways in order to be effective. When you write a legal document, you have to write a t'nai kafal is one of the things you have to write. If this happens, then it'll be a chalitza. If it doesn't happen, it won't be a chalitza. You have to write both things. Not just if it happens, it'll be a chalitza. That's not good enough. You have to write if it doesn't happen, you have to also write that. It won't be a chalitza. You also have to write that. So here, he didn't do it tonight kafel. Marsar didn't tonight kafel. One opinion holds he needed tonight kafel. Rebbe holds he needed tonight kafel. He didn't do it tonight kafel. So therefore, the chalitza, the tonight is ineffective. Therefore, the chalitza removes the zika. You can't be mekadesh her anymore. Marsar lo b'inyan tonight kafel. Rabbanan hold you don't need tonight kafel. It's an effective tonight, and the tonight is holding up the chalitza. So therefore, it wasn't a real chalitza yet, and therefore you can be mekadesh her. We'll get more into what seeming machskana of the Gemara over here. Yesh t'nai b'chalitza. Ravina usually go after the last. Ravina is the last opinion. We go with the last opinion. La halacha. He seems to all the yesh t'nai b'chalitza. Tosfos asks, how could it be? we paskin eitanai bechalitza from the Gemara in Ksuvos. What is going on over here? Try to analyze that in Ben Sion coming up after this video. Okay, so the Gemara goes back to our Mishnah. Chalas v'asa maimer v'nasan gedo ball. Right, at the end of the Mishnah says, "Ein achar chalitza klum." Once you do chalitza, there's nothing after chalitza. After chalitza, everything is done. Why doesn't it say v'nistin am ein achar bia klum? The Mishnah described that if you do bia first, the one of the Yevamos, right, you do maimer the second Yevamos. It doesn't matter. You get chalitza doesn't make a difference. You did bia, you did yibam. That's it. You potted the rest of the wives. You're right. You should include that also after bia. If he does bia the first thing, there's nothing after that. The reason it only talked about is they wanted to tell me about the heter. We want to mater agunas, right? This lady. We want to talk about how she can become free out of this construct of yibam. So it was important for the Tana to stress that this is the way to mater her after you do chalitza. There's no questions about it. She is muteris to marry somebody else. Echad Yevama Achas Echad Shtei Yevamos. But this is the look Ben Azai. Mishnah like an ally Ben Azai. The Sani Ben Azai Omer Yesh Maimer Achar Maimer. Right? We get a Machlos Gamliel on the Rabbanon. Is there Maimer Achar Maimer or is not Maimer Achar Maimer? Gamliel says there's no Maimer Achar Maimer. The Rabbanon say there is. Ben Azai has a middle sheet. He says Yesh Maimer Achar Maimer B'Shnei Yevamim V'Yevama Achas. When there's only one wife falling to two brothers, so there's two brothers who are able to do Yibam over there, so they each have a power to do Maimer. So there is Maimer for both. Their Maimer of both of them is effective on that one wife. But he would say that there's a difference that when there's two wives, there's two co-wives that fall to one Yavam, so then he only has the ability to do one Maimer, and therefore the Maimer after that would be ineffective. It's a third sheet of Ben Azai, not like either of the sheets on our Mishnah. Kate said Maimer Lazu, Maimer Lazu. Leim Messiah Shmuel. Say our Mishnah is a proof to Shmuel. Amar Shmuel Chalos Ba'alas Maimer Lo Niftaras Sarasa. It talks about a case in the Mishnah where you do chalitza to one, two Yevamos, two calls. You do chalitza to one and maimer to the second one. Or you do maimer to one and chalitza to the other one. Right? So this has bearings on two different halachas. For example, Shmuel's halacha. Shmuel says, chalitza bailas maimer l'niftar sarasa. If you do a chalitza to a bailas maimer, let's say there's only one Yevama, right? You do maimer, you can do a chalitza, so that there's two Yevamos, two women, but you do maimer to one and chalitza to that wife, so therefore the chalitza is ineffective to pata the sarah because it's called the chalitza psula. You have to give a get to the maimer. So chalitza psula, Shmuel says here we don't see that because here it says in our Mishnah that what you do chalitza to one, or you do maimer to one wife and you do chalitza to the other, so you give a get to the balas maimer, and it specifically says you do chalitza to the other one. So it should be a proof. It should be a proof, not a question. It should be a proof to Shmuel, right? That the chalitza, you don't need a chalitza on the one you did maimer to. That the chalitza, even though it's a chalitza psula, because you did maimer to one, you did chalitza to the second one, that chalitza psula paters the one you did maimer to. So it should be a proof to Shmuel. And also it should be a tiyuf to the Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef says, he has Rebbe recommended a recommendation in the Mishnah that when you do chalitza to a woman, you should choose to do it to the psula one, not to the ksher one. You don't want to ruin ladies that they can't be married to the kuna. Here, the Mishnah says that he does maimer to one and chalas to the other one. Really, you should do chalitza to the balas maimer and get rid of her and not do chalitza to the other one. Right? You did maimer to one, or you gave a get to one, so you ruined her. So give chalitza to her. Why are you giving chalitza to the other wife, to the second wife? You're ruining both of them. So the Gemara says no. It's not a proof to either of these things. Mikasani cholitz chalatz kazani di'evet. It says chalatz that he did it di'evet. So according to Rav Yosef says that right. He did it. He's not supposed to do chalitza to the second one. He's ruining two wives. That's all the Mishnah is saying, that he di'evet. L'chachila, Rav Yosef is right. Rebbe really holds you should do chalitza to the one he did maimer to, and the other one should be muteris to kahuna. It's also not a proof for Shmuel because Shmuel. Here it says he did chalitza to the other one at Patras Balas Maimer, just talking about where he did that, where he did chalitza to the other one, but it's not saying that it wouldn't be effective if he did it to the same woman, right? If he did the Balas Maimer, he did chalitza to the Maimer, it would patra the Sarah. It just happened to be, the case was he did chalitza to the other one. But indeed, if he did chalas to the balas maimer, he had two women, he did maimer to one and the chalitza to her, it would maybe part of the sar, not like Shmuel. Gemara says, "Tani di'evet get lezu v'get lezu lema misayel the Rabba Rav Huna Damar Rav Huna chalitza psula sricha lechazra al kol ha'achin." Right, if you have a get to one and a get to another, so he does chalitza to one, it patters all the brothers, it patters all the Yevamos. Rav Huna says, no, you need chalitza psula. After you give a get to one, you do chalitza after the get. That's a chalitza psula. It's a deficient chalitza. You have to do chalitza to everybody. So you see what? Shricha lahachzor kol ha'achin. Rav Huna says you have to go to all the brothers. Our Mishnah says, no, one chalitza is sufficient for everybody. So my answer is no, it's not disproof for him. So it's not a proof for him. My srichos the alma. Srichos the alma, it's talking about many women, but not all the women over here. Not all the co-wives. Just talking about all the situations that we're talking about. Only chalitza is needed to one. Not like Rabbi Huna says you have to do chalitza psula, you have to go to all the achin, all of them have to do chalitza. You don't need chalitza to all the co-wives, only to one of them. Not like Rabbi Huna, it's possible. And Srichos is really just talking about many cases, but not only one woman in each case. Maria said, the Mishnah says, get lezu, v'chalitza. We did get to one, chalitza to the other. Leim Masayel l'shmuel, to have it to Rav Yosef. Again, the same dia, the case before was he did maimer to one, and then he did chalitza to the other. The same thing would be a get to one, chalitza to the other. It would render the second chalitza psula. He did it after the get. Same, so this should be a proof to Shmuel. Shmuel, right, said before that a chalitza psula doesn't pass the sar. You have to do the Rav Yosef, and it should be a rejection of Rav Yosef. Right here, he's doing chalitza to the other one, and he's not doing chalitza to the preferred one that was already megureshes. He's ruining another woman. The Gemara says, "Ben kazani chalitz chalas kazani di'evet." It's talking about he acted at his own accord, not according to the instructions of the Rabbanim. So you can't bring any proofs from here. Chalitz v'chalitz al chalitz. So this is nami einachar bia klum. Again, the Seifa talks about the same thing. Again, we went through many cases. Einachar chalitza klum. You do chalitza first, nothing is effective after. Bia, the same thing with bia. If you do bia, you're kohen one yevama, nothing is effective after that. Why didn't it say that? You should include einachar bia klum. Write that in the Mishnah. The reason our Mishnah didn't include it, they wanted to stress in which case the Yevama would be mutter to shuk, and chalitza klum, only that would matter her to the shuk. Ben Yavam echad the shtei Yevamos bishlam al Rabbi Yochanan. So the Mishnah says whether it's talking about one Yavam or two Yevamos bishlam Yochanan Markula Beisa Balav Kai. He holds that the whole house is talking about balav, right? When a person does chalitza to one woman, he's kai bala shelo yivna. Once he built, he can't rebuild. He can't marry that woman anymore. The rest of his brothers and other co-wives, right? They're also asher lo yivna. They also get a lav. They're not kares. They're not eishazach. So Itzrach Lashmin, our Mishnah has purpose. And that's why the Mishnah says that if you have a case where you did chalitza to one, and then you did maimer to a second one, right? He holds everyone would have a lab. Once you do the first chalitza, every other co-wife and every brother is asr balav. And that's why it says there's no effective as a maimer after chalitza, because it's not kedushin like Rabbi Akiva, even though it's only a lav. Right? Still, kedushin won't be tovsin. According to Rish Lakish, he holds when someone does chalitzas that even for him, asher lo yivna is allowed for him to marry that woman. But for all his brothers and all the other co-wives, there would be an isser of kares, eishas ach, b'shol b'makom mitzvah. Kula base of kares kai itzrach lashmin, and then kedushin tovsin mechavi kares. Why do you have to tell me that the maimer doesn't work after chalitza? It's pashut, right? There's no tfizas kedushin. Maimer is a form of kedushin. No tfizas kedushin by chayvi krisos. That's how we hold. Amalach Rish Lakish. Well, tamayach seifa the tzani bal vasa maimer. It says in the seifa of the Mishnah he did bila, right? The one didn't maimer to a second wife. It's real lashmin and English and tovsim b'ishas ish. If he did bia, he was kohen at one yavama. His maimer to the second yavama is insignificant, of course, right? Even if right, ishas ish, right? I'm sorry, it's about a case where a second brother, he has two brothers. One brother did bia, and the second brother tried to do maimer that same yavama, right? She's an eishas ish. She's married already. Of course, it's not going to be a fact. There is a lashmein. We know that's also chayvi krisos. Even chayvi means is based in. So adultery means is based in chenek. So The Gemara gives a generic answer. Since the Mishnah wanted to teach you all the cases, and I just want to give you a rundown through all the different types of possibilities. First, we started with the case of one Yavam and one Yevama, one wife and one brother. Then we wanted to include talk about two Yevamos, two co-wives, and one Yavam. So we taught the third case also. We're talking about two Yavam and two brothers and one and one wife. There's not a co-wife, so therefore it went through all the cases, even though some of them were obvious. So it's not a deal. So the Gemara says, top of Nun Gilman Aleph, Chalatz V'asa Maimer Renasan Get Bishlam Chalatz V'asa Maimer Ritzurich. The case if you did Chalitza and then did Maimer to another one that you need. Tzachach, I mean, the Nigs are Maimer, the Basar Chalitza, to Maimer, the Kami Chalitza. You might say that we should, right? It says the Einach Chalitza Klum, do Chalitza to one, so the Maimer to the second one is ineffective. So it's necessary to teach me that, because you might think that we should make a Gzeira, we should say the Maimer is effective, because if we say the Maimer after Chalitza is not effective, people get confused. They'll say even a Maimer before Chalitza is not effective, and that is effective. You do the Maimer to one and then Chalitza to the other, the Maimer is effective. Kamashman do Gazrina. That's why we're teaching you, and we're not goes there, and therefore Einach Chalitza Klum, do Chalitza. We don't worry about anything after that. Get he did Chalitza to one and get to another. Of course, the get isn't effective. They're both trying to get rid of the Yevama. There's no reason to be goes there. According to your reason, name is Seifa. Baal Vasa Maimer. In the Mishnah, he did Baal, and then he did Maimer to the second one. He did Baal. He was Boal one Yevama, and the co-wife he did Maimer to Baal V'nas and get. Bishlam Baal V'nas and get. Right, he did Bila to one, gave get to Israel. That I need to tell me that Einach Har Bila Klum. After those Bila, the first one, anything afterwards to her or to another Yevama has no significance. It's the Raksach. I mean, niggas get the Basar Bila to get the Kami Bila. You might think we should be gozer. We should be afraid that we should give significance to a get after a Bila, because people might make a mistake and say if you give a get to one wife and then you do Yibam with her or with another wife. You might think that just like the get after the Bila is not effective, the get before the Bila is not effective, but the get before the Bila is effective, right? There is get before Bila, and you have to get rid of that get. You have to do Chalitza for that woman. Aval Baal Vasa Maimer Lamali. Why do you need that case, right? He did Baal, he's Baal one, and did Maimer to the second one. There's no reason to be goes there. So the Gemara says, Tana Chalatz V'asa Maimer, Tana Nami Baal V'asa Maimer. Once we're already teaching Chalatz V'asa Maimer, right, which is significant because they'll tell you don't make a Gzeira after the Chalitza, Einach Har Chalitza Klum. So therefore, because we taught that which is significant to teach us, Tana Nami Baal V'asa Maimer. So based on that, we also included Baal V'asa Maimer, even though it's not really significant. I did the Baal Misni Baal V'nas and get it, and because we want to teach there was necessary to teach me the case of Baal V'nas and get that we're not gozer in that case, we still say Einach Har Bila Klum, Tananami Chalatz V'nas and get. Therefore, even though it's unnecessary to teach me, it also told me the case of Chalatz V'nas and get. Bisman Shehi Asisin Deloki Haitan. Our Mishnah is not like the following Tana. The Sanya Abi Yosef ben Yochanan Ishu Shalim Omer Mishur Meir Achas Bila Achas Chalitza Betchila Einach Har Klum. The Emsu Esov Yish Har Klum. He has a more Mahmer Shita, this third Shita, that says even a Chalitza formed in the middle or before Chalitza formed at the end. I mean, you did a Maimer or you did something before the Chalitza. The Chalitza was in the middle, or the Chalitza was the last thing. Even though our Mishnah says, according to everybody, Einach Har Chalitza Klum, he would hold there is Acharei Chalitza Klum, or there is before Chalitza. If you did a get or something before Chalitza, it has effectiveness according to this Tana. Shalosh Machlokas B'Davar. There's three opinions. Tana Kama Savar, right? The Rabbanan, our Mishnah hold Bia Di'ikal Migzar Gazrin, and Bia, if you allow a Bia to say Einach Har Bia Klum, right? He does gives a get to one Yevama, he does Bia to the second Yevama, so the get of the first one is effective, you have to nullify that. It is Maimer to one, you have to nullify that Maimer, and you have to do a Chalitza to the other one. There, it is necessary. Where goes are over there. That was where you Bia the Ikal and Migzar, there's problems, right? Because if you're not gozer in the case of Bia, then you'll be Mekel in a different case, like we explained in earlier Dapim. So therefore, Gazrinan, Reb Nechemia Savar, Reb Nechemia is the last opinion. Our Mishnah, Bia Nami Leikal and Migzar. He's not worried about Bia being the Gzeira that we talked about previously. The Kamar Ligzar Bia Akar Haget Mishum Bia Chalitza. Maybe you'll tell me that by Bia, what's the problem? Which if he goes there, Bia, he gives a get to one and then Bia to another one, which is say he has to remove that do chalitza to the first one because Bia achar chalitza, because maybe in a case of Bia achar chalitza, right, he does chalitza to one and he does Bia to her after he did the chalitza, which is certainly not effective. Came in the chalitza del raisa made the idea. Chalitza is different than a get. That's chalitza. Everyone knows del raisa. They know once you do chalitza, you can't do Bia, you can't be kona her in Yevama anymore. The Kamar ligs are Bia Achar Maimer, Mishum Bia Achar Bia. Maybe you'll say the case of Bia Achar Maimer, you did Maimer first, and then to do a Bia afterwards, because maybe he'll do Bia to one Yavama and try to do Bia to the second Yavama. You can't be bonish ne batim. Even the Bia del Raisa made the idea. Everyone knows that Yivam is del Raisa, Bia is del Raisa, so they know he's kona her and nothing else is going to work after her. So there's no reason to make a Gzeira. Abba Yosef and Chanan Sarvalak Rabbanan the Gaj Bia, he holds the Rabbanan that they're worried about Bia, right? Like we explained, because you're going to be makel to do, people will think that you can do Bia Achar Bia or Bia Achar Chalitza. The Gazar Chalitza Mishum Bia, and once we're Gozar and Bia, he was Gozar Chalitza, just like Ein Yesh Achar Bia. We don't say Ein Achar Bia Klum if it's Be'emsa or Basof, so too by Chalitza also or Gozar, because we don't want to be makel by Bia. We have finished Parak Gamaliel. Mazel Tov. This is probably the most complicated program I've ever seen, but we did it. We're on our way to the next Parak, Parak Hamishi. 5 out of 16. Daf and Gimel. Let's start it. Abal Yevimto. Beim B'Shogim Beim Mezi Beim Onis B'Ratzon Afilu Hushogim Yevim Yezida Hu Mezi V'Shogeges Huanas V'Yal Anus V'Hilo Anusa Hi Anusa V'Lhulo Anus. Okay, so there's a mitzvah of yibum. How do you do the mitzvah of yibum? You're together, you have sex, you're boel, you do bia, right? So let's say he's doing a b'shogeg, right? We talked about it before, machlokas, where you have to mechavim l'shem mitzvah. Now l'shem mitzvah, the Mishnah is really dealing with this a little bit. He does it mazid, meaning he doesn't mazid, he's doing it for the wrong purpose. He's doing it because he wants to hana, or l'shem isha is not l'shem mitzvah, or he does a b'shogeg, or he doesn't realize what he's doing, right? He thinks it's okay not to do it l'shem mitzvah. Or he does it ba'ones, he forces her or she forces him, or ratzon. Ratzon is obviously the normal case. Ratzon maybe there's too much desire, or of course it's a desire to do it, then it's okay. It doesn't matter what he's the shogeg or he's the shogeg or he mazida. Who mezi shogegas, or he's doing it purposely for the wrong reason, and she's doing it by accident for the wrong reason. Who honest v'lo anusa, he's honest, he's being forced to do it. Someone's putting a gun in his head, and she's not anusa. He anusa v'hulo honest. She's not being forced. He anusa, she's being forced, and he's raping her. Technically, v'hulo honest, he's not forced. Echad amara ve'echad agomer, right? You could even rape someone and be kona and bia. Echad amara ve'echad agomer, kana. Whether he does ma'ara ha'ara is the tchilas bia. Again, we'll talk about exactly what that is. Presumably, it's just when the corona or the tip of the penis touches the outside of the vagina or goes in a little bit. It's machlokes. Ve'echad agomer, whether you do complete bia, ejaculation, kana, he's kona v'lo chilek ben bia lebia, doesn't make a difference. Even a small bia is good enough to be kona yivama. The same thing would apply to psule kahuna. He violates one of these terms in the Torah. In psul oposos opsulos kagon alman lekohen gadol. If he's bought an erva or curries for sure, or he does kagon alman lekohen gadol, even does a lav. Kohen gadol is boel an almana, a widow grusha v'chalutza kohen hedya. A regular kohen is boel a grusha chalutza. Mamzer is Israel, Bas Israel, Mamzer in the sin. Israeli is married to Mamzer, Mamzeris, or in the Sina. Pasla, it passes her. Once you do a bia that's asura, it makes the woman a zona, and she becomes sula to the guna. Zona, a woman who had a forbidden relationship is asur to the kahuna. It doesn't matter what type of bia it is, even if it's a small bia, like we'll talk about it. Gemara says, "My afilu." Why is it afilu? Gemara says, "Let me buy kamar. Let me buy who shogi he kama kavala mitzvah." Of course. If he's shogeg, he doesn't realize he's not doing it for the right reason, and she's doing it for the right reason. Inami, who made it? The mitzvah, or he's doing it intentionally for the wrong reason, but she's doing it for the mitzvah. Afilu who shogeg him is they're both not doing it for the wrong reason. Darvayla mechab l'shem mitzvah. Afilu achikana still works. Tani Rabbi Chia. Rabbi Chia says afilu shneim shogeg shneim is shneim anusim. He says a little more of a chiddush. He says even if both of them, this is the chiddush. Even both of them are amazing. They're both intentional. They were showing. They're doing it for the wrong reason. They both are doing it l'shem hanat. For enjoyment and not l'shem mitzvah, both of them it still would be an effective yibum. Tomorrow we'll get more into the details of how you could do what is the minimum necessary to accomplish a yibum. Hope you enjoyed today's share. See you in Yom Ben Sion coming up next.